Have you ever thought that pictures in books are, just for kids? Well, today we're going to blow that idea wide open. We are going to explore how illustrations aren't just decorations. They're actually these incredible tools that teach us how to read on a much, much deeper level. So let's just jump right in with a question that, let's be honest, most of us have probably asked. Are pictures in books basically just training wheels? Something you get rid of once you learn how to really read? It's a super common assumption, but as we're about to see, it completely misses the point. All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll tackle that whole training wheels myth. Then we'll get into the huge difference between just decoding words and true deep reading. We'll uncover the secret power of an image, explore this really cool idea called amplification through simplification, and then see it all come to life with the graphic novel Coraline. And finally, we'll wrap up with why this all really, really matters. Okay, let's do this. Section 1, more than just pictures. We're going to challenge that training wheels idea head on. And, to be fair, that idea isn't totally wrong. Pictures definitely act as a kind of meaning anchor, especially for new readers. They make stories way more accessible. But that is just scratching the surface. The real magic, the really cool stuff, happens in the space between the words and the pictures. They can work together, add new layers of meaning, or they can even contradict each other on purpose. And that tension, it forces us, the reader, to become an active detective, trying to piece together the full story. It's a workout for your brain. And that workout builds a vital skill. This brings us right to the heart of the issue, the difference between just, seeing words on a page and actually building entire worlds inside your mind. Think of it like this. Functional literacy is knowing the rules of the road. It's essential. But deep reading, well, that's being a Formula One driver. It's about creating the movie in your head, feeling what the characters feel, and getting totally lost in the world of the book. It's an experience. The scholar Maria Nikolajeva just nails it with this quote: "Being able to read is not the same as reading." I mean, let that sink in. We live in a world with higher literacy rates than ever before, but deep, immersive reading is actually on the decline. That's the gap we need to be thinking about. So how do we fix that? Well, this is where pictures make their grand re-entrance. They provide what's called a scaffold. It's like a framework that gives our brains a shortcut to building those complex mental worlds that deep reading demands. They're not training wheels. They're more like a launch pad to a much higher level skill. Which leads us perfectly into our third section, the power of an image. Now we're going to get a little more specific about what is actually going on in your brain when you see one of these illustrations. So let's get just a little bit technical for a second. It'll be worth it. A picture, that's the physical thing. It's the ink on the page, the pixels on the screen. It's the object that you can point to. An image, though, that's what happens inside your head. It's an event. The scholar Hans Belting put it perfectly. An image doesn't just exist, it takes place. It's your brain mashing up that picture with your own memories, your culture, your emotions, all to create something totally new and personal. And this is where it gets really profound. Pictures can be windows that let us peek into completely different worlds and lives. But they can also be mirrors that reflect our own world back at us in a new way. And that process, that's how we build empathy. That's how we learn to understand each other. Okay, for this next bit, we're going to dive into a really fascinating, kind of counterintuitive idea that sometimes less is actually way, way more. Now, it is so important to understand that not all simple pictures are the same. On one hand, you have stereotyped pictures, you know the kind, like from an old dusty textbook. They're lazy, they shut down communication, and they often give a totally warped view of things. But on the other hand, you have these simplified cartoony styles. Because they're more abstract, they're actually more universal. They strip away all the noise to focus and intensify the meaning, inviting us to fill in the details. This brilliant idea comes from the comics genius Scott McCloud. He calls it amplification through simplification. See, a cartoony style isn't about dumbing something down. It's a super smart artistic choice that zooms our attention in on what's absolutely essential, creating a much more intense and powerful emotional punch. All right, so we've talked a lot of theory. Let's see how this all works in the real world. For our case study, we're going to take a close look at the fantastic graphic novel adaptation of Neil Gaiman's Coraline. So this right here is the very first panel of the book. No words, just this one single picture. Now, at first glance, it seems pretty simple, right? But let's apply everything we've just talked about. Let's really read this image together. Look at how that simplified style makes the house almost feel like a character itself. It looks so lonely, almost alive. The sharp rocks, that for sale sign, they're all clues that something's not quite right here. And then there's the cat. See how it's staring right at you? That's what artists call a demand image. It's demanding a reaction. Is it a warning? An invitation? The whole scene is packed with classic horror elements that build this incredible atmosphere before we've even read a single word of text. And this technique isn't just a one-off. It goes on through the whole book. Later on, when Coraline is in this creepy other world, the text actually starts describing the art style itself. The world starts to break down into just the idea of trees. How cool is that? This super clever trick is called metafiction. The book is basically winking at you, drawing attention to the fact that it's a story, that it's made of art and words. And that pulls you, the reader, up a level, making you think critically about how stories are built and how these simple drawings are having such a huge impact on you. Okay, let's zoom back out and tie this all together in our final section, why this matters. How does all this change the way we think about reading for the long haul? So what's the bottom line? Pictures aren't a crutch. They are a sophisticated, powerful engine for deep reading. They help us build these incredible worlds in our minds, they make us feel real emotions, and they help us see the world through someone else's eyes. In a time when deep reading is so under threat, high-quality illustrated books are more important than ever. They teach us a truly vital skill to look closer and to find the extraordinary hiding in things that seem simple. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. If a simple picture in a book can hold this much depth and meaning, what else are we overlooking in our everyday lives just because we've decided it's too simple to be important?